The Polish Resistance, the most underrated heroes of W4. Prologue, a nation that refused to die. Warsaw, September 1939. Smoke coiled upward in thick black ribbons as German Stukas screamed overhead. Buildings collapsed like wounded giants, glass rained from shattered windows, and the city that had once danced with music, literature, and freedom was now an inferno of terror. Yet beneath the rubble, in the basements, the forests, the sewers, and the whispering night, something stirred. A force, a heartbeat, a refusal. Poland had fallen, but the Polish nation had not. And in the shadows, the Polish Resistance, one of the largest, most sophisticated underground movements in all of WWII, was being born. This is their story. The story of the silent army the world has too often forgotten. Chapter 1. The Fall and the Seed. When German divisions stormed across the Polish frontier on September 1, 1939, the world watched a nation fight with impossible bravery. Cavalry charges against tanks, tank crews fighting until their last breath, and cities resisting until they were little more than rubble. But for many Poles, the war did not end with surrender. In a cramped apartment hidden behind the remains of a shattered church, Jan Kowalski, a young history teacher, gathered with a handful of friends. He was not a soldier, not a politician, not anyone meant to command men. But the occupation changed everyone. The Germans burned books, executed intellectuals, and deported thousands to concentration camps. Every day brought new restrictions, new humiliations. Jan stood at the cracked wooden table, his voice trembling but firm. We cannot wait for Britain or France. We must act ourselves. Poland must survive, even underground. That night, in a single candle's glow, the first cell of a new movement formed. They called it Służba Zwycięstwa Polski, the service for Poland's victory. Others called it madness. But history would call it the beginning of one of the greatest resistance movements the world had ever seen. Chapter 2. The Underground State. By 1940, the Polish resistance had grown into something no other conquered nation possessed, an entire secret country beneath the occupying one. This Polish underground state had a shadow government, a judiciary military branches, schools for children banned from education, printing presses hidden in basements, a secret courier network spanning thousands of miles. Jan, once a schoolteacher, became an instructor in one of these secret schools. Children whispered arithmetic and grammar in candlelit basements, learning Polish history despite German decrees that they were subhuman. Textbooks were smuggled in sacks of flour. Teachers taught at risk of execution. But the jewel of the underground was the Home Army, or Armia Krajowa, AK, a force that would eventually exceed 400,000 members, making it one of the largest underground armies in the war. They were everywhere. Farmers, nobles, students, teachers, women carrying weapons in flower baskets, children acting as lookouts. Jan's role would soon change. He didn't know it yet, but he was destined for something larger, something far more dangerous. Chapter 3. Messages Written in Flames. One of the Resistance's earliest victories came through information, not bullets. Intelligence gathered by AK agents, including details about German troop movements and the deadly new weapon called the V2 rocket, was passed to the Allies through secret couriers. This intelligence allowed the British to bomb V2 testing sites and slow Germany's program. Jan became one of these couriers. His mission, to transfer documents from Warsaw to Krakow, documents that detailed the construction of a mysterious German weapon being tested in the north. He traveled mostly at night, disguised as a railway worker. Sometimes he rode in the hollowed compartment beneath a coal wagon. Sometimes he walked miles through frozen forests. Every minute risked arrest, torture, and death. One icy morning, as he reached a clearing, he found a German patrol waiting. His heart stopped. Had they discovered him? Was this the end? Papier, the soldier barked. Jan forced a smile. Railway maintenance. I'm on assignment. The German leafed through the forged documents. Seconds felt like hours. Finally, the soldier waved him through. Only when Jan stepped beyond the ridge did he allow his breath to escape. The resistance lived on such moments, thin lines between life and annihilation. Chapter 4. The Women of Fire and Shadows. While men like Jan carried information across enemy lines, women ran the veins of the underground. One such woman was Karolina Lewandowska, a nurse turned resistance liaison. She smuggled weapons under bouquets of tulips, delivered microfilm hidden in loaves of bread, and transported wounded fighters through sewer tunnels beneath Warsaw. The Germans never suspected her. A woman with flowers was invisible to them. But Karolina was not merely a courier. She was a leader, known to her comrades as the Falcon. Her calm under pressure was legendary. One evening, a young boy approached her, breathless, clutching a blood-stained note. "They've taken him," the boy whispered. Karolina unfolded the note. It was Jan's handwriting. He had been captured. Her breath caught, but only for a moment. No one was left behind, not on her watch. Chapter V, The Bloody Fortress, Pawiak Prison. Jan awoke in darkness. He could hear screams in the distance, raw, agonizing, human cries that echoed off the stone walls of Pawiak Prison, the most feared Gestapo facility in Poland. He had been beaten, interrogated, deprived of sleep, but Jan gave them nothing. Not a name, not a location, not a hint of the underground state. Meanwhile, Karolina planned. The resistance had broken people out of Pawiak before, but every escape was a miracle. The prison was a fortress of barbed wire, armed towers, and walls thick enough to outlast artillery, yet Karolina forged a path. Disguised as a nurse attached to a German medical convoy, she bribed a guard with stolen jewels and sedatives hidden in her sleeve. The plan hinged on timing. Too fast, and the guards would notice. Too slow, and Jan would be transferred to Auschwitz. Hours later, Jan was smuggled out of Pawiak inside a supply cart covered in blankets. When he finally saw Karolina, bruised and trembling, his voice broke. "You came for me. I always will," she said. They embraced for only a moment. Then, the war dragged them forward once more. Here, partisans waged guerrilla war against German forces, sabotaging supply lines, derailing trains, and rescuing communities doomed for destruction. Jan and Karolina joined one such unit near the dense forests of the Lublin region, Wolverine Unit 13, known for its daring operations. Their commander, Major Stefan, the Wolf, Zajewski, was a legend. A former cavalry officer, he had escaped 2 executions, sabotaged 13 German convoys, and liberated an entire village slated for deportation. Under the Wolf, Jan learned to plant explosives on railway tracks, to blend into the forest like an animal, and to fight with the ruthless precision the times demanded. Karolina trained medics, taught them how to treat infection with pine resin, how to amputate limbs under fire, how to whisper comfort to men dying far from home. The partisans became ghosts in the forest, striking, vanishing, striking again. Their most daring mission came in the summer of 1943, Operation Thunderclap, the derailment of a heavily guarded German munitions train. The team planted charges beneath a bridge. The night was silent. Jan held the detonator. At 2017 a.m., the train thundered across the tracks. Jan pressed the trigger. A shockwave tore through the sky, flames spiraled upward, and the forest lit with apocalyptic fire. Ammunition exploded in a chain reaction so powerful that German forces believed it was a Red Army artillery strike. It was the single largest sabotage success in the region. But German punishment was swift. Villages were burned, innocents executed. Jan wondered if the price of victory was too high. The Wolf placed a hand on his shoulder. A free Poland must be built on sacrifice. But we will carry the burden, not the people. Chapter 7. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. While the resistance fought in forests and fields, another inferno raged within the walls of the Warsaw Ghetto. In early 1943, as Jews were being deported to Treblinka, a small group of Jewish fighters formed the ZOB Jewish Combat Organization. Using smuggled weapons, many supplied by the Polish Home Army, they launched a desperate uprising. Jan and Karolina, returning from a mission, watched from a rooftop as flames engulfed the ghetto. Gunfire echoed through the night. Jewish fighters, barely armed, were battling German troops with impossible courage. Homemade grenades, stolen pistols, even knives. A teenage fighter raised the Polish and Jewish flags atop a shattered building. The moment seared itself into Jan's memory forever. "That," Karolina whispered through tears, "is freedom." The ghetto fell, but its resistance became legend proof that even in hell, defiance could burn brighter than fire. Chapter 8. The Spy Who Saved the World. While Jan and Karolina risked their lives on the ground, another Polish hero operated in the heart of Europe. Witold Pilecki, a soldier of the Home Army, did the unthinkable. He volunteered to be captured and sent to Auschwitz to gather intelligence. For nearly 3 years, he documented the horrors, the gas chambers, the starvation, the executions, and smuggled reports to the Allies. His intelligence was among the first accounts confirming the existence of the Holocaust. Jan read Pilecki's reports in a secret bunker. His hands shook. "We must tell the world," he whispered. But the world didn't listen. Not soon enough. Still, Pilecki's bravery inspired thousands, and the resistance fought with even greater determination. Chapter 9, The Storm Before the Storm, Operation Tempest. By 1944, the tide of war had turned. Germany was weakening. The Soviet Red Army was advancing from the east. The Home Army launched Operation Tempest, a vast series of uprisings to liberate Polish territory before the Soviets arrived, so that Poland could negotiate from strength after the war. Jan and Karolina fought in Lublin, ambushing German patrols and capturing key communication centers. For weeks, they tasted hope. But when the Soviets finally arrived, hope died. Instead of supporting the Polish fighters, Soviet forces arrested many of them. Some were executed, others sent to the Gulag. The Wolf was taken, his unit dissolved. Jan burned with fury. "We fought the Nazis," he said. "Now we must fight to survive the Soviets." Poland's nightmare was not ending. It was simply changing shape. Chapter X, The Warsaw Uprising. Then came the event that would define the resistance forever. August the 1st, 1944, 5:30 p.m., W hour. The Home Army launched the Warsaw Uprising, the largest underground rebellion in WWII. 50,000 fighters, mostly teenagers. Jan, Karolina, and what remained of their old unit joined the battle. For 63 days, Warsaw became a battleground of impossible heroism. Children. The sewer couriers carried messages beneath the city. Women fought alongside men. Civilians built barricades from pianos, bricks, and broken cars. Fighters captured German tanks with homemade explosives. Jan fought street to street, building to building, room to room. He watched comrades fall, buildings collapse, and hope rise and die 100 times a day. Karolina treated the wounded in a makeshift hospital inside a bombed theater. Sometimes she worked ankle-deep in water. Sometimes she operated in the dark. One night, Jan returned from the front lines trembling. "We can't win," he whispered. "We're running out of weapons." Out of food. Karolina cupped his face. "I know, but we must fight. Even if we lose, the world must see us." The Soviets waited across the river watching. They never came to help. Chapter XI's Ashes of Glory. On October 2nd, 1944, the Home Army surrendered. Warsaw was destroyed. 200,000 civilians were dead. The survivors marched into camps. Jan and Karolina walked among them, exhausted, broken, but still breathing. As they left their ruined city, Jan whispered, "We rose. That is all that matters." Karolina squeezed his hand. "Our story will outlive these ruins." Chapter 12. After the war, the Second Occupation. But Poland did not find freedom in 1945. The Soviets imposed a communist regime. Former resistance fighters were hunted as enemies of the state. Jan and Karolina fled to the countryside and lived under false names for years. They married in secret. They rebuilt their lives in fragments. And yet, they never forgot. They secretly collected testimonies, documents, and memories. They wrote the truth of the Polish resistance so that someday the world would understand. Many of their comrades never saw justice. Many died anonymous. Many remained buried in forests and fields, but their legacy refused to die. The largest underground army in Europe. The first to warn the world about the Holocaust. The masterminds behind major intelligence victories. The authors of the Warsaw Uprising. The builders of the underground state. The rescuers of thousands of Jews. The fighters who resisted not one but two totalitarian regimes. And finally, the world began to understand. The Polish resistance was not simply brave, it was monumental, a force of spirit, conviction, and sacrifice almost unmatched in history. Their story is not merely one of war, it is one of identity, defiance, and the unbreakable will of a nation that refused to disappear.